So I think this is a really important message.
What was it like dealing with your investors?
Honestly, it was pretty frustrating. Now, they were supportive, but they weren't close to the business every day. We sold 85% to Crawford and Company for a little over $36 million.
So yeah, you were able to cash out a good amount as well.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, sounds like it.
My name is Robin Smith. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WeGoLook.com, and we are located in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the heart of the entire nation.
So you're a big Thunder fan?
We are. Everyone here is, we thunder up all the time. Just bought a new road bike, and I almost purchased the one in Thunder colors, but did not.
You go to the airport to welcome Paul George there?
No, I did not. I will say that I go to the airport enough that if I don't have to go there, I don't go.
I guess, do you travel a lot for your job then?
I do. I travel quite a bit, and so far, so good. I've been to Canada 3 times this year, London, Italy, all fun things. I enjoy it.
Yeah. Is all that for work?
All of that has been for work. I will say what's funny, I have a lot of friends that think it's definitely glamorous to be able to travel a lot, and I try to let them know it's really not that glamorous to be at the airport at 4 a.m. or late at night or when the weather's bad or you miss home, but it's been good.
I'll second that. I do not travel a lot, but like working from home, for instance, like I hear a lot of people like, hey, it's awesome. I'm like, yeah, well, if you do it for a while, it's not everything that you think it is all the time. Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about WeGoLook?
Okay, thanks, Austin. And, I appreciate the opportunity to share our story and journey with you and your listeners. So thank you. Founded the company late 2009. I had a friend who was looking at a high-end projector on eBay, and he thought that the seller was misrepresenting it and simply said, I wish I had someone to go look at that for me. And I did some research. At the time, everyone was buying on eBay. You could tell that the trends for online purchasing were just going up. Couldn't find a service provider and thought, wow, this would be a really great way to help people mitigate their risk when purchasing something sight unseen. Just people like you and I, right? The consumer marketplace individual. So it's been about a year recruiting what we call lookers. They're independent contractors. I went after mobile notaries, process servers, field inspectors, people that I thought would be mobile and out in the field, somewhat professional. Built a back-end platform and launched with a website that I'm still proud of, but sure, my marketing department now just would be horrified if I showed them some of the old pictures. But anyway, launched, came out of beta December 2010 with the mindset of being able to dispatch someone on demand on your behalf. So let's say, Austin, that you wanted to purchase a pinball machine that's in Kentucky, but you're in California and you wanted to bid on that very quickly. So you'd simply place your order at WeGoLook, and the looker closest to that pinball machine in Kentucky could go and meet with the seller, take current photos, video a working demonstration, take measurements, answer custom questions you might have about the asset, and then bundle all of that up into an electronic deliverable and send it to you very quickly. So you would have current information and could make confident purchasing decision. And really felt like it was great service, that people needed it to help them avoid scams and fraud. But this whole time when I was so excited to launch, I didn't realize that I would probably need a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign to really get the word out there for just the masses. I felt like people started kind of organically learning about it. It would kind of take off. And I was really excited to be able to take the solution to eBay. I felt like it was a no-brainer for them to place our link in every single one of their ads. And so, of course, that's what I did. And they told me when I arrived there at eBay that I didn't have enough business and I was too small and didn't have any experience. And they were correct in everything they said. My platform totally couldn't have handled the traffic at the time. So I came back to Oklahoma City with my head down just a little bit, but thought, you know what, that was good feedback. I'm going to work on it, and continued to grow my community base of lookers and hired a couple of more people and started getting some inbound referral traffic from small and mid-sized B2B clients like banks, credit unions, fleet companies that needed a nationwide footprint but very customized data capture, and started performing what we call looks for them. So we're going out, we're capturing, we call our inspection reports or tasks looks, and had some great success there. And I'm happy to continue telling you how we pivoted, but I get excited and wanted to tell you kind of how we started. And that was really the first piece of WeGoLook's journey to getting launched and to kind of pivoting. And by the way, we are now eBay Motors' official inspection arm. So we came full circle, and that was a very gratifying reward and contract whenever we signed. So you can go on to any eBay Motors link and see a hyperlink to our website. And so that's exciting. So we are able to definitely help the individual consumer now, but we are primarily focused. About 99% of all of our business is for enterprise clients.
When you started the company, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Like day one, what you're doing before that, and
Sure.
a web designer or what?
Well, I actually had an extensive background in sales. I'd worked for the Washington Post, Cumulus Media, and my husband passed away, and I really needed to be at home more with my two sons. I needed some additional flexibility. I had a great job. I was working for the corporate office. I was doing really well, but I wasn't able to be at home, and I needed my partner there to help me, and he wasn't there. So I started my own consulting business and primarily worked with auto dealers because that's where a lot of the marketing money's at. And while I was doing that, realized that now you've got to remember, this is 2006, 7. So not everybody had the chatbots or the fancy CRM platforms that they have now. In fact, some of the dealers I worked for didn't even have websites. They, old school. So I really became fascinated with the internet at that time and I was like, okay, you guys need to set up these business development centers. You need to take these leads in. Here's how we need. So I started training, and I had about 21 dealers at one time working on these type of projects. And that really gave me some good exposure, not only to technology, but to the automotive industry, because I had to learn the dealer side and even some of the OEM side in and out. And so that was one of the things when my friend was looking at that high-end projector at the beginning, when he said, I wish I had someone to look at that. We had calls coming into the centers for people wanting to purchase vehicles at a dealer, but they had extra questions and they were depending on the salespeople to go out and take pictures. So I knew there was a need for people to have this remote ability to capture data, but that's kind of where I was. And it helped me kind of put the pieces in my mind together when I figured out what I needed to do, but hired a firm initially to kind of help with building out the platform.
If you're going home and being consulting, did you save up money to do all this? Because it seems kind of like a scary challenge.
Yeah, so definitely bootstrapped. I had a couple of silent partners who put in about $150,000 each into my idea, which was great. And so I had that money to kind of start. So around, I think, a total of about 320. And then I took a big pay cut. I was working. I ended up not doing my consulting. I took a huge pay cut and a big risk just kind of start getting this going. But hired a firm to help me build this platform. And unfortunately, they did not complete the project. It was a very expensive mistake, but, I learned from that. Technology is kind of, I'm not a developer or an engineer, software engineer. So you're kind of at the mercy sometimes of listening to what people tell you. But I was able to hire this guy out of, he just graduated from OU, and he came here and he was able to take what bits and pieces we had of the platform and make it work. So I'll never forget the day that an order came over all by itself. It solicited out by itself. The looker accepted the order, went out and did it, and everything came back in and nobody had to touch anything. It was great. I knew from that moment on it was going to work.
Let's just say there's a young entrepreneur who's listening and they're kind of going through the same thing. They want to learn if they don't have any development background. Like, I know the new guy could figure it out, but why did they leave you high and dry and left over with the platform?
Yeah, that was probably just an ethical thing for them, not finishing the project. I think it became more complicated than they thought, even though we'd kind of scoped it out. But that was something I had to learn, right? When you look at a scoping document, a lot of times firms or developers will give you just a real high level and not get into the weeds. And that's something I would tell everyone. Really roadmap it out. It's going to take you, a bit longer to do so. But if you can really chart out or map out your entire process in great detail, then that will help them a lot. But I think it was maybe they also just weren't able to help. I don't think they had the capability to do so. So and that's all good. I learned from that. That's helped me make decisions moving forward. But, young people today, what I would also say, a piece of advice I learned is just do what's critical and necessary to get started, to move forward. I think some people that I talk to, they're like, well, I'm going to wait until this, and this, and then I'm going to launch. Well, a lot of times you could be losing not only valuable market share, letting someone else come into the market, but experience, right? You could learn from your mistakes, or you might get some valuable feedback that would determine possibly a new way of doing something. Some people are so set in their ways of it has to be a certain way, but if you launch and you kind of learn and gain that experience, you can tweak it from there and make it an even more efficient process. So I would definitely put everything into a bucket. I'm more impatient than probably most people, but I go with what's critical, necessary, what would be great to have, what I would like to have, and then what's my wish list? What do I want it to look like in 2 years, right? So I would definitely go with critical and launch and learn.
You hired this new guy on, and I mean, how much of the money was gone for the platform? And can you walk us through after that first transaction, what happened?
Gosh, they took a little over 100,000 of my investment total. And then he was close to $4,500 a month. And so I was kind of burning through, and that didn't include some of the other things we were trying to do. So it's kind of burning through, but I was being very careful about it, burning through that investment. So I went to a local, it's called I2E. It's a state funded, they help, they have a seed step angel group. They're able to kind of put you in front of the right investors. And there are those kind of resources and groups out there. So I would highly recommend students or young entrepreneurs or older entrepreneurs who have an idea and want to present it to kind of go there and have them help you with feedback. And so that's what I did. I went to this group, and they had a program where they offered a non-recourse loan for about $100,000. And I applied for it, went through that process, and they actually, I was accepted. I qualified for it. So I was real excited about it until I was reading the terminology on the paperwork, and it was talking about a 20% interest rate. And I was like, well, what's this? And it's, paying it back at a 20% interest. And they were like, but don't worry, you don't have to pay this back if you fail, right? And I was like, I don't plan on failing, and I don't plan on paying 20% interest. And what's really funny is, of course, I should have known that up front. So I would say that not understanding or having that business background kind of hindered me in some ways as well. I've had to learn as I go. So I would say this to your audience, entrepreneurs have many different hats, your HR, your accounting, and especially if you're very small, you have to do everything. You have to learn about compliance. So those are all things that, and frankly, a lot of that's boring to me. So it was a challenge for me to learn those things and be excited about it. But turn back around a couple of years later, I2E came up, and they helped us go through a Series A funding in October 14 of a little over $3 million. So that was a great experience. So while initially it wasn't a good choice for me, it ended up being the best choice for me at a later time. So don't ever close a door would be another something I would say.
Well, your 2014 was, okay, that was 5 years basically after you started, it looked like. Can you fill us in the gaps in between?
Sure. So my funding lasted for about a little over 2 years, maybe almost 2.5 years.
The first 320K basically? Or something?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then brought in one more investor for about the same amount. And then when they saw that I was gaining some traction, they invested a little bit more, but these are very small chunks, right? And then ended up buying, one of the other partners bought out that third guy who came a little bit later, which turned out to be a lucrative decision for him. But yeah, so I was able to take my plan and show that we had some traction, and the business model was working. We were getting orders. It was just, I was learning how to scale. I'm on platform number 3. We're about to launch platform number 4. So, I had to learn a lot about that. And that's very expensive, but that really helped carry me through. And of course, we were starting to get sales, right? So we were getting money coming in. And then one of the partners let me use a room in their office. So I didn't have that rent overhead. So that was very nice. So I would say leverage any kind of relationship or resource that you possibly can. I certainly wasn't picky about where we needed to set up, or we're buying new furniture now, but just now, we've refurbished a lot of furniture, and we've made the decision not to put new carpet in. And you still have to look at your budget. It always amazes me when I see startups that raise, 30, 40 million, and they're spending money on a wine bar. And then of course later you'll see them in the news for failing, a lot of them, but it's a definitely balancing act.
Can you talk more about in the early years? It seems like it'd be a struggle, especially the beginning when I guess the website probably, like personally, how that was taking a toll. Because if you have to go home and how many children do you have?
Two
Okay, yeah,
boys.
I guess you're taking care of them while trying to basically do a startup.
Yeah, which they were used to me working a lot anyway. But I will say that the startup allowed me to, if I needed to take them to baseball practice or go to a basketball game or help them with homework, that still allowed me to do that. That's why I was still working for myself. So I was able to prioritize them in a manner that I wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So maybe I stayed up later and worked on things, or maybe I got up earlier and worked on things, but I was still able to do the things that I needed. And I didn't have to travel very much back then at all.
How many people work for you today and how much do you do in transactions?
I've got 135 employees here in Oklahoma City, 11 remote, and we are up to over 35,000 lookers nationwide. So that's a big start or a big jump from where we were for sure. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
But yeah, I guess revenue wise.
Oh yeah. So we are almost running, we're super close to $1 million a month. And so we should be at least double that by this time, second quarter, Q2, with what we have in pipeline. So we're scaling pretty quickly.
Why do you have to travel so much now as compared to before?
Well, I learned that my meetings, let me take you back one step. So I talked to you about launch the company with the individual in mind, right? I wanted to be able to provide looks around the world for anyone who needed it. And then we kind of went to that B2B field services, on-demand field services type business model. But now what's really cool, our lookers have become part of the process. We have enterprise clients who are utilizing the combination of our lookers, our technology, and also our fulfillment center here in Oklahoma City to create new process flows that really are more efficient and cost effective. And let me tell you a good example. So let's say you have an insurance carrier who they typically will send out field assignment representative or an adjuster who might be, very highly qualified that's getting paid $60,000, $70,000 a year driving a fleet vehicle. And they're going out taking pictures of where an accident occurred, say at a controlled intersection. Well, now the order can come over into our platform. The solicitation goes out to lookers that are within a few blocks or miles of that property. And the first one to claim it can go over, capture photos. Our fulfillment team reviews all the information, and we have the completed scene inspection back to the carrier within an hour, which is much faster than they were getting before at a much lower cost. And so we're kind of, I don't want to say Uberizing labor, but we're definitely augmenting and supplementing enterprise clients' own field force. And in some cases, we're actually helping them provide new service areas. So we're running logistics for banks, executing finance documents. And so that's where the big shift has occurred. We can dispatch licensed drone operators, heavy equipment operators, teachers, pastors, realtors, anyone in our platform, people that speak Mandarin or Spanish. And so we have enterprise clients who are looking at how can we use that technology out in the field to make everything more efficient. And so I have to work with C-level groups or project teams at large clients in order to do so. Now I am starting to add to our sales team here, which will help with my bandwidth internally. But up to now, it's been pretty much myself. My COO can also go out on and meet and represent the company correctly. But we've just recently been adding professional salespeople to our team to help us with that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the B2B model versus the B2C that originally that you were looking at?
Absolutely. So I think this is a really important message because I don't think you should sometimes be so set on an idea being a certain way that you're not open to other ways. Now, you also don't want to be distracted and put too much energy and horizontal effort versus more energy into a vertical effort. But so when Superstorm Sandy hit, we were performing property inspection reports for a client, a large bank, and they reached out and they said, Robin, we've got a client that's needing property inspections done very quickly there. Is there any way you guys can perform these? And I said, sure, because I knew we had a FEMA certified looker there. I was working the desk at the time. And he got on his bicycle, he went down, he performed this list of inspections in this very, very large bank, loved our turnaround time. They loved the report because we had customized the data capture for this other bank, right? So that was exactly what they wanted. This other bank obviously liked it. And then they told CBRE and Butler Berger, they said, we want you guys to start using WeGoLook as a vendor. I was like, oh, B2B. And obviously these banks need this type of product nationwide. So if you start thinking about, and there are inspection companies that are in property, and there are auto inspection companies, and there are nationwide courier services, but there's no one that has a dynamic platform that allows all of those things things to occur. And so if you start thinking about in Colorado, a bank might need to know if there are medical marijuana signs in the window. And in Oklahoma, they don't. Our platform knows that whenever the order comes over. And a lot of times these other companies have what I would call archaic, old technology. So we really were able to find a niche there. And we specialize in what we call driveway inspections because we can meet with the person at their home, place of business, Starbucks, because we built our business model around that eBay auction turnaround time, right? And a lot of these other companies will take them days and days to get it fit into their schedule. And that's not how we work around here. So that's really been great for us. And we've been able to take that and apply it to many different types of companies. So you think companies like Tesla Motors who don't have dealers, but they need to put a pair of eyes on trade-in vehicle that's in Spearfish, South Dakota. We can do those things. So I really learned to listen to our clients and be able to turn and pivot there.
I don't know anything about technology as far as your platform you have versus what the other people have. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to keep it simple, is there an easy way to explain this? And I guess originally, is that what separated you as well?
Originally, it wasn't my technology that separated me from everyone. And ultimately, my biggest barrier to entry is definitely our community. I think there are very large companies that could move forward with building millions and millions in technology, but they don't have the community that we've worked on for over 7 years. But here's how, at a high level, our technology works. So, of course, now we're completely mobile. But if you were to tell me, Austin, hey, Robin, take 25 photos of my desktop computer. I want these very specific photos, and I want you to answer 25 very specific questions, whatever it might be, et cetera, about this asset. I can come back into WeGoLook and to our platform, and when the way we add these schemas into our technology, it turns around and drives those requirements back to the lookers that have experience in computers. So everyone is out there and they're required to take those 25 photos. We give them tooltips on what the photos should look like, but they have to follow those instructions screen by screen. And then all of that data is uploaded, sent to our QA team. So that's when I'm talking about how technology drives the data capture itself and the actual being able to produce a consistent and similar report. So no matter who's doing it nationwide or how many thousands of people are doing it, the client's going to see a very similar deliverable. That's how we've built our technology, and we use, geofencing, geotagging. We do all kinds of things with our lookers and trying to electronically manage this workflow. So our customers have a back-end dashboard. They have their own data repository where all of their reports are located. It's actually quite robust and dynamic technology platform for clients. In fact, if you're talking to young entrepreneurs, I have a platform, an app, and the field force. If people could actually just build a website, say an aggregator for people who want to maybe go check on grandma or home health, right? Mm-hmm. And offer that as a solution. Well, our app and our network and our platform could enable a young entrepreneur to just host the website, and we do everything else, and it's all transactionally based. So it's only per transaction. So it's pretty cool. We've built this whole turnkey solution off of our platform to help clients, like enterprise clients.
So you're willing to give our listeners access to your platform so they can build their own businesses now?
I give everyone access to our platform. It's great. Yeah. No, it's awesome. I love it.
I was just trying to think, even in the beginning when you started it, you said there are already companies that did it. I mean, was there anything that was holding you back? Because me personally,
well, sure.
If I was doing it, I'd be like, well, there's already a company that does that. And like you said, there's already companies that do what you do. So tell us about a confidence to get over that.
Well, okay. That's a really good point. So there are companies that do pieces of what we do. There's not a company that does everything that we do. So let's just say, and here's how I knew we had a better product. And this goes back to something I learned, and I felt real confidence after it kind of hit me one day. The guys over at Uber and Lyft, they didn't know anything about transportation or logistics, but they did build a better customer experience utilizing technology that cost less. And so they've really disrupted both of those huge industries literally overnight. And so I feel like, you don't have to be an industry expert necessarily to be an industry leader. When I really let that sink in, that helped me move forward too. But what I was confident in was our ability to offer multiple facets, so in a very fast manner. So I'm just going to use a bank banking example where a bank is wanting to help one of their customers with a loan on their vehicle or pull equity out of their vehicle. Well, they could go to some of these other vendors, right? They could hire an auto inspection company. They could hire a notary service. They could hire a courier service to be able to do everything that we do with just one looker. So we're displacing like basically 3 in 1. And we take custody of that order from the very beginning all the way to fulfillment. So we have the front end. So we're not just the people in the field, and we're not just the call center, or the app, we're everything. And there's nobody that does it. So I was very confident in the fact that we had a better solution, because there were clients that might need notaries and also auto inspections. So, think about the big auto inspection companies. Well, we go pick up keys. We can execute financial documents. We can pick up license tags at the DMV. Those are things they can't do. And so an enterprise client would want to go with us because they can use us versus 5 or 6, 10 different vendors, depending on what they're doing. So I felt like that was my value prop for sure.
How are you able to do that now versus the other company? Like the DMV thing, for example.
Mm-hmm. We're able to do that we build a schema. Our clients place orders and we can go pick up tags at DMVs and ship them. We actually even have a team downstairs that ships the tags out to each individual vehicle owner.
And what's a schema? Sorry.
I'm sorry. A schema is where, like, if you wanted to say, okay, Robin, I want you to take these photos of this desktop computer nationwide, it's what drives what we turn around. So if you wanted us to go look at an online date, the schema would include taking photos of their appearance, taking a photo of their driver's license. Maybe we're videoing them on an interview. If you wanted a schema for an auto, schema would include data capture on tires, on the VIN, odometer, things like that. The schema is really just what are the required fields for the report.
You're just saying that, for instance, y'all could go to the DMV because the people send that to you versus if it was another competitor, they won't send all that information to them because they don't have the platform that you have to send it all? So
if you start thinking, if you look at some of the advertising and some of the very large companies that are out there, and you have, say, virtual finance companies for vehicles, we can go out and take pictures of the vehicles. We can go take the documents that need to be signed and notarized to the buyer, or we can pick up title documents and things from the seller. We can also go down to the DMV and pick up license plate tags on behalf of the enterprise client and ship individually if there's that finance piece involved. That's what I would not really term as a competitor, but someone who's in the auto inspection space. All they do is go out and take pictures of the vehicle. They don't offer those tasking or customized schemas, if you will. They only offer vehicle condition reports.
That makes sense. Based on your name, I thought it was just pictures too, I guess at first. Yeah, I like the company too. So it's even more than just looking, it's doing tasks.
It is. And that's a good point, because we're always like, we go look and do, but that's not a good,
right.
Yeah, we really specialize in low complex, high volume tasks.
Okay.
It's pretty great.
We do tasks?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That makes more sense. I'm trying to figure that out. All right. Well, would you mind talking about dealing with your founders? I mean, it sounded like you had some people come in, at least one guy left. Tell us dealing with that, just in general.
Well, in general, honestly, it was pretty frustrating because they were silent. Now, they were supportive, but they weren't close to the business every day. So they didn't understand how some things were working and how other things weren't working. They didn't understand the frustrations of technology. It's a big feat to incorporate video into an app and transfer it. It doesn't sound like it would be, but it is. So it was a little frustrating working with them. I needed more funds, but I get it. I was like, okay, I would probably feel the same way too. I was just being impatient. I wanted more funds so I could move more quickly. And that didn't ever happen. But, and we had a couple of disagreements, but we also had some really good positive conversations as well. And then ultimately, they had a really nice return because we sold 85% of the company back in January of this year to Crawford & Company, which is the world's largest third-party administrator of claims within the insurance space, for a little over $36 million. And so their investment turned out to be probably one of their better financial decisions ever. But yeah, it was frustrating.
Can you tell us about selling? Like, how'd that feel? Be able to to grow a business, sell it, and then still work there? And did you sell all of your ownership shares?
So I still own almost 13%, and my COO owns a little over 2%. And actually wasn't looking to sell. I was working on raising Series B round last year, and Crawford approached us with an investment. And then the more they learned about us, they were like, we just want to buy you guys. And I wasn't really emotionally ready for that. It took me several weeks to kind of process and work through what that would look like. But I will say this, it wasn't about the money for me. It's about my partners wanted to sell, obviously, but it's always been about, I want to see WeGoLook be global. And we are. We're in UK, Australia, Canada. It's great. But I've always had that vision of scaling internationally. And this really allowed us to be able to do that more rapidly, along with having the resources of Crawford behind us. They do over $1 billion a year in revenue. And they're in about 120 countries. And just having that industry knowledge, because this has always been a learning process for me. I've never been a CEO or had to run a company large like this before in my life, nor did I take classes for it. So it's all been a learning process, and it just felt like the right thing to do to be able to give my employees here a real career path to move forward and just to ensure that stability of growth. And so so far it's been a really good, and it was the right decision, but I absolutely am committed to seeing us get to where we're going. A lot of people are like, why are you not on a beach somewhere? I haven't had time. I can't take off to go to the beach yet. One of these days I will, though.
That's why I asked about the full-time thing. It's usually after someone sells, even if they are still working there, usually it's a year or two and maybe part-time. So that's the reason about that.
No, unless they want to fire me. But so far they've been great. I signed a 5-year employment agreement and like I said, I want to see it grow and be what it can really become. It's like a mom watching her baby grow up, and now it's time for them to be in college and really turn into an adult. That's kind of how I feel about it, but absolutely committed.
Well, what percentage did you own before you sold?
It was almost 35 something.
So yeah, you were able to cash out a good amount as well, it sounds so.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, sounds like it. So, I mean, what's been the hardest part about doing this whole thing?
Hardest part about doing this whole thing? I would say that there were days where sometimes you just feel like you are just clawing and scratching and not making any headway whatsoever. And you feel like you're kind of stuck, like you're like not going anywhere. I'm working so hard and something's not happening here. And there's always a breakthrough when you come to those moments, right? Sometimes they last a day, sometimes they last a week, and it's just brutal because you just feel like those are the hard things. But there's always an upside to times like that. But I think that a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of emotional up and down roller coaster moments. And kind of back to the beginning of our conversation where so many people are like, oh, it must be great to work for yourself, or you have control over it. Yeah, not so much sometimes. Sometimes I'd like to be able to go home and watch Dancing with the Stars or whatever everybody else is watching, right? Or just be like, oh, hey, they're doing that this weekend and I'm doing this weekend. And I think that my personal life has probably taken somewhat of a toll because I'm mom first and then I'm pretty much married to my job. So I would say that, and I will say that one of the things I'm trying to do better this year on is doing a little bit more things for myself, fun things, but it's not always pleasant, and it can be a mental challenge sometimes. But it can also be amazing, right? On the flip side of that, you take that to the amazing awesomeness scale and you're like, I wouldn't do anything else.
For entrepreneurs that are like in that same position you were, where you feel like you're not getting traction and doing the same thing, and what's your advice?
So my advice is when you get in a rut and you feel you're in that little hamster wheel and you don't know what to do, just step out of it. Do something different. I don't care what it is. Sometimes you make a decision knowing that it's probably not the best decision, but it's a change. And anytime there's a change, there's a reaction, right? And there's some sort of effect that occurs from that. And so I've always been like, okay, this isn't working. I'm going to do something at some point. And so that's my advice. It may not be the best advice out there, but it's worked for me. And sometimes it's looking at yourself. How can you change yourself? It's not sometimes so much about your business. It's like, what can I do to be a different type of person? Maybe I need to grow in certain areas so I can rise to being a leader of this company or making a better decision. What can I learn about now that might help me with that? So finding resource materials to help with that is good. And being involved, there's all kinds of organizations like 1 Million Cups with other young entrepreneurs, those are good support groups to talk to other people that might be facing similar challenges and find out what they do.
Is there any other suggestions as far as like support group? Because more than likely people listening are kind of looking for that if they want to learn and build their business, but you don't always have the entrepreneurs to talk to bounce ideas off.
Yeah, you know what? And sometimes it's not even so much that, it's like, how do you have time to go to all your meetings all the time? If you're part of an organization, you're expected to go. So I really enjoy LinkedIn, and I would love to link in with anyone here. Just look me up on, Robin Smith, WeGoLook. I'd love to link in, but I think it's important to connect. There's different groups that so if you have an entrepreneur that's working on technology, or maybe it's medical field, they can find groups with similar people. And those are great groups to have topical discussion. I find that those are definitely good resources on LinkedIn, and you can do it from your computer at any time. So you're not having to travel to an offsite location, and you can reach people from around the world that way. It's not just limited to your own city.
What is the biggest challenge of as of today for your company?
The biggest challenge for my company is for people to know about us. It's just and I think that's probably a challenge for a lot of good service, because we don't have millions and millions marketing budget, but it's finding out about us, really using our solution. But we're really making some traction and headway there, and one of these days somebody somewhere will do a huge story on us, and you'll hopefully and that'll be kind of a breakthrough. But yeah, I think that's a big challenge for sure, is just market awareness, really. The rest of it we can work through and take care of.
I ask that because in case there's entrepreneurs listening, you're a bigger company than most of them that we've spoken with so far. But if you have a challenge, maybe an entrepreneur out there has a solution for you.
Yeah, thanks.
And kind of closing, I appreciate you coming on and sharing the story.
Sure.
Is there any last words of wisdom you want to leave with us?
Well, I would just say to everyone who has their idea, definitely, something that really helped me in the beginning is, if you're like me at all, it's like you have these great ideas and you're very action oriented. I'm not saying I have great ideas. I'm just saying that I felt like I did. And I had these action items I'm always good at getting done, but I'm not good at putting everything down on paper and writing out business plans and doing what I call the tedious, not so much fun work. But it's a great exercise. And if you can pretend like someone is giving you $200,000 and you have to prove your business concept. You may know in your heart and your head, well, of course my business concept will work. But if you write down, how would you use that money? How would you be able to show results, right? So not just say, oh yeah, 20 people bought it. How could you come up with that solution and then turn that into analytics to show someone that it actually worked? And that's such a good exercise, because it makes you think very strategically about, how am I offering this? How am I going to take this and present this to an investor? By the way, that's very good exercise for that. But it also helps you see where you're focused at and where you need to apply more focus or less focus. And so I highly recommend spending several days on, it sounds not very fun, and you feel like you already know in your heart and your soul and your mind all about your business, and it's going to be great. But if you put it on paper and map it out like a true business plan, it will really help.
Thanks again, Robin, for coming on and sharing your story.
Sure.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Millionaire Interviews. If you want to hear from other female entrepreneurs, then go check out episode 12 with Dory Clark, or episode 15 with Jillian Hellman, or go try out episode 28 with Krista Colson. Yeah, and I know what you're thinking. Austin, I've already listened to every episode of Millionaire Interviews. What should I do now? Well, go head over to our website, millionaire-interviews.com. You'll find some behind the shower curtain information that we simply can't provide via audio format. I promise, I'll reveal it all on the website. People don't care who they heard of me. A woman will